Hi everybody and welcome. This is Jody here, known as the Caffeinated Crafter. Today I'm doing a little how-to video on how to do watercolor stamping. I'm going to be actually using two different mediums. I'm going to be using our Tombow markers, just as I did in our first video, and also I'm going to show you a little trick on how to do Copic markers. And each of them kind of give similar results, but yet still different. And I'm going to show you how to achieve all of these looks. So bear with me and we'll get started. Okay, so the first process that we're going to do is using watercolor stamping and Tombow markers. There's actually two ways to achieve this look, and I'm going to show you how to do both of them. And as you can see, depending on the steps that you do, you get two very different results, even from the same stamps. First thing you're going to need, obviously, are some kind of water-soluble markers. Like I said, I use Tombow markers. Distress markers would work just as well. I believe Stampin' Up! Markers would work also. I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. There we go. So you can't see my tape that's on this side, so it's holding everything in place. Anyway, just a side note. I used these watercolors, or they're stamps meant for watercoloring and for using this technique. They're actually by Hero Arts. Obviously, this one came wood mounted. I unmounted it, and I've got some like double-sided tape here to make it stick to the block. But really, you could use any kind of stamp that's got, as you can see, like not too much openings, kind of like a bushy kind of effect. Okay, and then you're also going to need, I'll put these here, you're also going to need some water, and I use watercolor paper. I found that to be the easiest. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to color the stamp. Now this is just meant to be random. As you can see, I'm not being really picky or fussy. Now it does kind of look like I've got nothing on here, but just wait for the magic. I'm going to color this whole thing first with the light color. Make sure I get all of it covered. Then I'm going to dabble in with the medium color. Now we may get different results here than the original one that I did because of course in my crafting enthusiasm I forgot to write down what exact colors I was using, so this may be a bit of a surprise. And then the dark color I'm just kind of dabbling here and there just for some contrast. Okay. And then the green, I'm just going to color in the stem here. Now you can see, I don't know if you can see, I'll hold it up a little bit. It looks like it's already started to dry and it looks like a jumbled mess. Don't panic, this is fine. What we're going to do, I'm going to put down my watercolor paper, and I'm going to do the spritzing off camera, but I'm going to show you how to do it. You don't want the water super heavy, you kind of want it a light misting. You could go too heavy, but what that's going to do is take away some of the detail of the stamp. So, and when you're spraying, what you want to do is you want to hold it kind of perpendicular and spray like this, pss, 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 so that the water kind of falls onto the stamp. You don't want to spray it directly over, because what that's going to do is add too much water and it's going to start to pool on it, and again you'll lose some of the detail. Okay, so bear with me one second while I do a quick spritz. I don't know if you can hear it off camera. Anyway, you can see kind of what that looks like. And then all we do is stamp. And I probably have enough water and stuff to do one more stamping. Now, when it dries, it's actually going to look really cool. I know it kind of looks a bit of a mess now, but actually this is a really cool effect. And like I said, when it dries, it's going to be, as you can see, I did use different color stamps here, but that's part of the magic. As you can see here, this is kind of going to what it's dry to, and you can see much of the detail still of the stamp, and spritzing it on the stamp has still kind of blended the colors a little bit to give that watercolor look, and it's already starting to dry, and you can see the detail here is still captured in the stamp. So let me show you the second version. Remember, this is the second version, and you can see here there's a lot less detail. It's much more blended, more of a watercolor look. And this is achieved by, instead of spritzing the stamp like we did earlier, we're actually going to spritz the paper. So, again, here's our stamp. I'm just going to give it a quick wash. I'm not too careful with cleaning my stamps, as you can see. You kind of just, they're water soluble, so you could just give it a spritz of water just to clean it off a bit. I like to clean it in between doing these two different techniques, because if I kept the same, if I didn't clean it, I would start to get, the colors would start to muddy. and I wouldn't get a lot of, I'll show you back here. See how it's got a lot of shading in that? If I didn't clean it, the dark would kind of take over and it would just be kind of a muddied mess. So you do want to make sure you clean your stamps before doing each of these techniques. So again, the coloring technique part is exactly the same as earlier. And as you notice, this is a brush tip. I'm not doing it like this and using the tip of the brush to dab it. I'm actually coloring on the side. It gives me more coverage, and I'm just covering like that. And like I said, it'll look like it's drying, but don't panic, that's fine. The water will reactivate the ink again. And just dab in the middle. You're just going to have to trust yourself as far as this dabbing part, because obviously you won't be able to see it. And just a little bit of the dark. A little bit of the dark goes a long way. You just want a little bit of that for contrast. Okay, and then once again we're going to color the green in. Okay, as you can see, just like earlier. Okay, now instead of spritzing our stamp, we're actually going to spritz our watercolor paper. And I'm going to again do that off camera. You don't want it super, super heavy. I don't know if the camera's even picking this up. You don't want pools and pools of water. You want a light misting. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing. Pull it up. And I probably, like I said, have enough ink to do one more stamping. And voila. I know I'm going all French. Voila. That's my Canadian upbringing. So as you can see, here's the two different techniques. This one's going to be a lot more blended. The water is blending it a lot more and having it fan out a lot more. Whereas this particular technique, it's a lot more detailed, and you'll be able to see it here. Okay, now quickly going to do the Copic marker one, and it's kind of the same technique or the same idea, but instead you're using Copic markers and you're using the blending solution as opposed to water, because obviously Copic markers are alcohol ink based, so spritzing them with water is going to have absolutely no effect on them. Whereas using the blending solution will give you the same effect as we saw with the Tombow markers and water. So let me quickly demonstrate that. Again, quick wipe off of my stamp, and I'm just going to show you on a scrap piece of paper. This is the Express It. To be honest, I'm not even sure of the company, but let me do this here quickly. And again, we may have different color results because, you know, in my crafting enthusiasm, I didn't mark down what I was using. And it was only an afterthought that I decided to make the video. So, okay. Oop. So there's that. And again, a little bit of the darker. This is the medium tone. And this is the blue. Dark blue. Okay. Now again, with the Copic markers, you do have to work a little bit more quickly because the blending solution will dry a little bit more quicker than, say, the water would. Let me just, the colors that I used for these ones, or for this particular demonstration, oops, is actually B14, B16, and B28. Okay? So, just going to quickly, and I tell this is the blending solution because I've marked it with like a blue label, so I know it's not the water. So I'm just quickly going to spritz the stamp. And I'm probably going to spritz it one more time, because I probably have enough ink to do another stamping. And voila! So you can still get that watercolor effect even with Copic markers. Don't let anybody tell you differently. And again, we're going to get a similar result. This is the result of when I actually spritz the blending solution onto the paper. So you can absolutely see the difference. Stamping it onto the paper gives a more muted look. Spritzing onto the stamp gives you more detail. That's all for now. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and happy crafting!